You are a savior, and you take brokenness aside.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I know there's people still coming in. I want to welcome everyone who's here and everyone online to the first ever expansion meeting for Isaiah 117 in Duval County. Yeah. My name's Vic. I'm the pastor here at Emmaus Church, and we feel privileged to be able to host this meeting. I'm going to pray for us, and then we're going to get started. So let's pray. God, thank you so much for this opportunity. We know that it's your heart for your church, Lord, to take care of widows and orphans in their distress. You say it's practicing true religion. And God, I'm just so encouraged to see so many people out tonight. I pray that you would speak to us as we hear this vision, God, that we would catch it, show us how we can be involved. We pray your blessing on our evening, on this ministry. God, accomplish all that you desire in and through it, we ask. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, now I want to welcome Danae Bunso, our Duval County Expansion Coordinator. Welcome, Danae, as she comes.
Okay, I have a few notes to help maybe keep me on track here. Thank you all for coming. We are just so excited to be here, and this is an amazing turnout. So thank you for being with us tonight and for liking our Facebook page, sharing the word, and just being a part of this. So I am Danae, and I am not alone. My husband, Carl, and my kids are really every single bit a part of this, and they have been praying with me, pushing me, coming alongside every single part of the way. It's truly a calling of our entire family. So just know, and I'm going to cry tonight. I'm going to try to compose myself, but just being here is just, I'm just beyond grateful. So we have 6 children. We have been foster parents for about 6 years. 2 of our kids we adopted out of foster care. And we've had 23 children come in and out of our doors who have been a part of the system, whether they've been with us a few hours, days, or months, or years. I could sit with you and just sit with you for hours and tell you story after story of great heartache, but yet unexplainable joy and hope that has really shined through the darkest of places. And that's really what tonight is all about. It's the hope that's kept our family going, even in the hard times. But it's never been about our heartbreak, our desires, or necessarily what we even want for these children or their families. It's been about stepping into the brokenness of all of these kids' lives and showing them a love that has no bounds on one of their darkest of days. So of all the stories that I could sit here and tell you tonight, there is one in particular, as I was thinking and praying about what I would share this evening. There's one that really stands out that kind of kept stirring this question in me of how can we step in and bridge this gap for these children awaiting foster placement. In September of 2018, there was a post on our private Facebook page for our agency who we're licensed through. And the post was really just asking for prayer for a little one who had was hospitalized because of some injuries that he had endured from abuse. His brothers were placed in a home in foster care, and he was not placed yet because they were not sure if he would live, if he'd survive. He was not expected to make it through the night, and they also weren't sure if he did survive what the extent of his injuries would be. Due to the sensitivity of the case and the investigation going on, there was no one allowed to be with this baby. And that's just what kept stirring up inside of me. I just could not imagine an innocent baby that had been terribly abused being alone in such a traumatic time. No one should ever be alone, whether they're living, dying, or in the waiting in between. I began praying for this baby, and I called a lovely licensing specialist of ours who's also a friend, and gently pushed her to see if she might be able to get information to see if I could get special permission to go see this baby and be with him. She helped me and pressed on her end, and I was able to get legal permission to go and visit with him. So I drove down to the PICU out of town that he was in. The night I arrived, I walked in I could barely catch my breath. His body was swollen, bandaged. He was intubated. There were too many machines to count. The doctors and nurses were working tirelessly round the clock to keep him alive. I sat by his bedside. I found a teeny tiny part of his hand that wasn't covered by wires or splints. I sang over him, I cried, I prayed, and I begged God to show himself in the midst of one of the most dark, broken, and helpless places I had ever stepped into. And God did. He was there. This baby was never alone. That baby made it through that night and the next and the next. And eventually I got to see him move to the step-down unit. I got to hold him. I got to feed him a bottle. I got to hear him cry, which was the sweetest sound ever. I got to see him smile, and I got to see him placed into foster care with his brothers, who is now his forever family. After that experience, I began to send emails. If you know me, I like to track people down and get information and bug people sometimes. So if you answered any of those emails, thank you for getting back with me. Making calls to anybody in the system that would listen to me. I wanted to find out how we could step into this need of advocacy and children in the waiting. I tried to find out, could we create something, or is there something that already existed like this? How can there be something that doesn't exist yet? And thank goodness, little did I know that in a tiny town in Tennessee, about this same exact time, God had already worked all the details out. I don't know where my tissues are. Thank you. I had some. I left them. And the doors of the first Isaiah117 house were just opening. In the waiting, this ministry began to grow. We got to hear about it for the first time in March of 2020, at the beginning of this pandemic, during quarantine, home with our family. And we saw a documentary Mike Rowe did for Returning the Favor. That featured Rhonda and the Isaiah117 house. It was about a home for children to never feel alone on this day. A home for children to know they have never been forgotten. I went to the website because there was nothing like a tagline, hey, call us if you want to start one of these. The website doesn't even have that on there. So I'm like, this is good stuff. And so there was a general email box, and I sent a very professional email that sounded something like, I have no idea why I'm writing you, but you guys are doing this so well, and we have this calling. Can you just give us some wisdom, some advice? Where do we start? What do we do? To which we got a response of, welcome to the team. And I was like, what? What do we do now? Send us a video of your family. If you know me at all, I am not technology savvy, and neither is anyone in my family. Somehow we came up with a video. Thankfully, we were quarantined together, so it worked out. And they asked us to make a core team. Thank you to all of you who are part of our core team and spreading the word and praying with us and jumping on board with our craziness when we had no idea what was in store for this. In August of 2020, our family drove to Elizabethton, Tennessee to meet with the home office and see the open homes in Tennessee. After a lot of talks and prayer and God making the way, here we are today. We do not deserve what God's called us to do, but we are so grateful and humbled that we get to do it. It is with most thankful heart and great joy that I get to introduce you to the founder and executive director of Isaiah117 House, Rhonda Paulson.
She was like, I'm going to cry. And I was like, oh, a few tears. I'm like, oh, my word, I'm about to ugly cry on the front pew. Hi, everybody. I'm Rhonda, and I'm the founder and executive director of Isaiah117 House. And I could not be more thankful to be here with you tonight. I just want to share a story. It's not my story, it's God's story. I just want to share with you the story of Isaiah117 House. And I hope that you walk away tonight with a few things. I hope that you walk away with a new appreciation for just how big our God is. I hope you walk away knowing that all those times that you yelled out in righteous anger, God, where are you? He was always there. In the mess, in the dark, in the ugly, he was always sitting right in the middle of it. And I hope that you hear a story of just some girl in Carter County that said yes and got to watch God take off because he wanted to build houses for children that he'd never forgotten. In 2014, I knew nothing of foster care. Nothing. In our state, it's DCS, so the Department of Children's Services, but I didn't even know that in 2014. I didn't know what DCS stood for. I didn't know where our office was. I didn't know anyone that had walked that journey. I knew nothing about foster care. I was a cheer and dance coach at a local college, and I was an anatomy professor. And so I worked in the cadaver lab, and then I picked up my pom-poms. It was kind of random, but that was me. 2 beautiful children, Sophie and Mac, married to my college sweetheart. Life was good and really easy and really safe and really predictable. But I was homesick from work, which was rare, and I was watching the Today Show, and it was National Adoption Month, and I had always longed to adopt. Always. Like I used to tell my high school friends, my college roommates, I'm going to adopt a baby someday. And how that never came up in the 2-year courtship with the love of my life or premarital counseling, I'm not sure. But sometime in that first year of marriage, I was like, I cannot wait until we adopt. And he was like, what? And I said, the Lord has always told me I would adopt. He was like, that is so funny, because the Lord has always told me I wouldn't. And I'm like, what? Like, what? And so Corey's that guy. I mean, he truly believes if mama's happy, everybody's happy. He just lets me have my way, bless him, but not about this. Like, we would be at church, it would be Orphan Sunday, someone would show a horrible video about a child not being chosen. I would be under the pew doing the ugly cry, and he'd be like, you need to get up. People are looking at you. I mean, like nothing. Like, so it's 2014. I'm homesick from work. I'm watching the Today Show. It's National Adoption Day. So I'm already crying because I'm supposed to adopt a baby and my husband will not let me. And then they announced that 75% of the children being adopted on the plaza that day were being adopted through the foster care system. I knew nothing about foster care, but you can Google anything. And so I Googled foster care Northeast Tennessee. And the very first thing that popped up is that in order to become a foster parent, you need to take classes. And this was a Monday. And the classes that we needed were starting that Thursday at a church we were very familiar with. And so I like to say I did the only thing a God-loving, passionate woman could do. I called Corey at work and I said, want to go on a date Thursday night? He said, I'd love to. I'll get mom to watch the kids. I was like, you do that, yeah. And I remember we went to Bonefish, and when we left, I said, want to drive out to Crossroads Christian Church? And he was like, on our date? And I'm like, yeah, Rhonda. But he drove. We pull in, the parking lot's full. He's like, lots of people dating at the Crossroads Christian Church. I know. We go in, we sit down, we run into a couple, a guy that we knew from college and his wife. And so now I think he's probably thinking like ambush marital counseling or something. But we go in, we sit down, and the lady stands up and says, welcome to your 8-week study of foster care. 8-week study of foster care, yes, that way. He was not happy. He was so not happy. And they had left a notepad for you to take notes, and he kept writing hateful little notes and shoving them at me. And I was like, we're going to get kicked out. He's like, I hope so. I mean, like, it was not good. I do not recommend it. And I don't know what it says about our marriage, but that night we left there, and we did not speak a word of what had just happened. We went to bed, and we got up the next morning. We were like, good morning, Schmoopy. Good morning, honey. And then we were fine. And then we lived the week as normal till that next Thursday. And then we met in the driveway, and we got in our car, and we did not speak a word of what was about to just happen. And we sat through class, and we drove home in silence. And week 3, we drove out in silence. We're driving home week 3, and he says, I don't want to do this. And I said, fair enough. You have been a good sport. I tricked you into it. We made it 3 weeks. Fair enough. And he said, oh, don't fair enough me, Rhonda. And I said, what? And he said, you and God have wrecked me. I'm a wrecked man. He said, I don't want to do this. You've known me for 20 years, and I like simple and safe and predictable. And there is nothing simple or safe or predictable about this. And I don't want to do it. But now I know the numbers. Now I know the statistics. And now I know the children in our county alone that just need a home. And I can't not do this. And so we went back. Week 4, week 5, week 6. Week 7, they took us on a field trip to the Department of Children's Services in Washington County, Tennessee, the Johnson City area of the state. And this was my first ever visit to a DCS office. They're all oddly the same. There's a lobby, and there's a sea of cubicles, and there's some conference rooms. And we were sitting in one of those conference rooms, no windows, no color on the walls. I remember there was a broken VCR in one corner, phones that plug in the wall, conference room. And the gentleman leading that class said, when a child is removed from their home, they come here. And I kept looking around that room, and I really thought, he has to be mistaken. Like, why would you ever bring a child here? And so I raised my hand and I said, I'm sorry, sir, but when you say a child comes here, like, what do you actually mean? He said, a little girl slept on this floor last night. And I remember there was actually a pain in my chest. My shoulders got real heavy and they went toward the table and I couldn't pick my head up and I just kept seeing her. This 6, 7-year-old little girl. She'd left the only mama she'd ever known. And if she was allowed to bring anything, it was in a black trash bag. And now she's sleeping on the floor of a conference room. And I couldn't have told you this in that moment, but looking back, it was like God was letting me feel what she might feel. Like the first thing that kind of ran over me was like complete confusion. Like, wait a minute, I was at school, and then these people came, and now I'm here, and like, where is my mom? And when do I get to see her? I just want to be with my mom. Just complete confusion. And I felt really tired, and I felt really alone. And then I had this emotion I didn't see coming, and I felt this big wave of guilt, and it almost took my breath because I thought, oh my word, she thinks she did something wrong. This little girl sleeping on the floor of a conference room, she thinks she's in trouble. She thinks she's to blame. And I was crying, and I was so mad at God, and I was so mad that this could ever happen. And then I heard him say, these are my children. What are you going to do? There is nothing special about me. Nothing. God is speaking to all of us all the time. And why the creator of the universe invites us into his work, he doesn't need us. He actually wants us, and he invites us into his work. Why he does that, I'll never understand. And sitting in that conference room, he was inviting me in, but it was just too big. Like I'm a cheer and dance coach. You've got the wrong gal. And so I went home. We finished class the next week, and we went back to Sophie and Mac and life as usual. Until November 5th of 2015 at 3:30 in the afternoon, there was a call that there was a 9-month-old little boy that needed a home. And I said, ma'am, I'm going to do something very uncharacteristic. And she said, what's that? I said, I'm going to ask my husband if this is okay. She said, that's a really good idea. And I called Corey at work and I said, tell me you'll love me no matter what. And he said, you wrecked the car again? I said, no. Tell me you'll love me no matter what. And he said, what's going on? And I said, we're about to get in the hottest mess we've ever been in. And he said, there's a baby. I said, there's a baby. He said, I'm on my way. And we loaded up our 12-year-old daughter, Sophie, and our 9-year-old son, Mac, and we drove to the back door of the Carter County Department of Children's Services. And they opened the doors, and there was this fair-skinned, fiery redhead, chubbiest 9-month-old I'd ever seen. And the outfit he was wearing was way too small. And when I asked, they said, well, actually, his outfit was so filthy, we had to throw it away. And so we did our best to bathe him in our drug testing sink. And this is what we found for him. And then they handed me his one possession, and it was a diaper bag. And I was instructed not to take it in my home for the next 12 to 24 hours so the roaches would crawl out. This little boy was entering our foster care system in a borrowed outfit with a roach-infested diaper bag. But he smiled, and he reached for me, and his name is Isaiah. And so we took Isaiah home, and I'm here to tell you, there is something about taking that step of obedience. There is something about taking that first step into the unknown, into the, this is too big for me, into this makes no sense, God. I don't think I'm able. It's about taking that first step. He shows up. There was more joy in our home. There was more laughter in our home. There was more energy in our home. The presence of God was so thick that we started joking we had our own little prophet, Isaiah. And so we would go in the morning, and I would say, well, what's your message from the Lord today? And he'd be like, I love it. I was like, yes. And so we started reading through the book of Isaiah. I also tell people, if you've not had a baby in your home in 9 years, you need Jesus, so you should start reading the word again. But we started reading through Isaiah, and we landed on Isaiah117. And basically it says, do good, seek justice, take care of the widow, and defend the cause of the fatherless. But I've been in church my whole life, and I really can't stand it when somebody takes a verse because it like fits their need, or it's cute on a coffee mug, or it's a good hashtag. Like, it really drives me crazy. Like, no. I want to know, what is the context? Like, who is God speaking to? What comes before it? What comes after it? Don't just give me a verse. And so if you look at Isaiah117, the context is quite simple. God is speaking to his people. And if you look at what comes before it, he says, you think I want what you're currently doing? You think this is what I want from my people? These new moon festivals and these sacrifices? No. They are making me sick to my stomach. What I want from my people is for you to do good and seek justice and take care of the widow and defend the cause of the fatherless. And so we grabbed a hold of that verse as our family's verse, and we grabbed a hold of this little boy named Isaiah, and we started walking our first foster care journey. What we would learn between 2015 and 2017, we would not be able to walk away from. You know, once you know, you know. And we now knew that the Department of Children's Services was 3 minutes from our house. Our eyes had been opened to a world that we never knew existed, a world that I never heard about in my small group Bible study, a world that I never heard about in my group of friends, a world that I never heard about in my circles. There was a whole world going on 3 minutes from my house. And I learned about it by being there every Friday morning at 10 a.m. for 2 years. Every Friday morning, standing in that lobby, trying to pull Isaiah off of me as he cries for me, and hand him to his mom as she cries for him. And I cry because this is never the way it was supposed to be. And people in the lobby watch. I learned about DCS through Darlene, the receptionist, who has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of Rhonda Paulson. I learned about it through courtrooms and judges and child advocates. I learned about it through caseworkers that were truly giving it their all. And the things that stood out to us, there were 3 things that we could not let go of. Number 1 was removal day. I was a high school teacher before I taught at the college level, and I knew of children that had been removed, and I thought it was something to be celebrated. I look back and I thought, yay, they're going to be safe. They're going to get a bath. They're going to be at school every day next week. Yay, removal day. But then God let me see it through the eyes of a child. And there is nothing to celebrate on removal day. Every part of this child's life just came crashing down. They have lost their mama, and they do not care what mama has said or done. That is mama. They've probably lost their grandmama. They've lost their home. It doesn't matter if we would live there. They would. They did. They lost their room. They lost their pet. There is no promise that they will be placed with their siblings they've been removed with, the only people that understand what they're going through. I have seen a caseworker sit 4 children down on a couch and say, pick your sibling. No child should ever walk that road. There's no promise of their same school the next day. There's no promise of that teacher that's been so kind. We had a 15-year-old in our home that just kept saying, I hope I get to go back to my project. I hope I get to go back to my horticulture project. I love that teacher. Do you think I'll get to go back to my project? Not if there's not enough foster homes. Every aspect of their life just came crashing down. And that child in that traumatized state is taken to an office to sit and wait. An office with fluorescent lights and state-issued furniture and a lot of very important work that has to be done very quickly. The second thing that stood out to us were the caseworkers themselves. Somewhere along the way, caseworkers became the villains. Caseworkers are not the villains. Caseworkers are giving it their all. Caseworkers are trying to love on a traumatized sibling group of 3 while doing a mountain of states paperwork in a cubicle. It can't be done. It can't be done. Caseworkers are using their own money to go out and buy food. Caseworkers are bathing babies in drug testing sinks. Caseworkers are picking lice out in their break room. They are giving it their all. But they're being asked to do an impossible job. And the third thing that stood out to us was foster parents. We need good foster parents. I have not visited to a county yet in any state where they say, no, we've got enough. Never. We need foster parents. And it is time for the church to rise up. This is our calling. This has always been our calling. This was never the state's calling. And so we need foster families, but I get it. Because, we sat in those classes and we watched Removal Day, and it was always daytime. And they would show this video and they would say, welcome to our home. Here is the kitchen. Here is your bedroom. And then you start living it, and your friends start living it. Removals don't happen in the daytime. And the call comes at 2 a.m. because placement takes a long time. And then they say, we have a sibling group of 3. They have 0 possessions. They all need baths. They have lice. Can we bring them to your home right now? How do you say yes to that? And so in January of 2017, which is 117, I did not plan that. God is funny. In January of 17, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Elizabethton, Tennessee. And I finally said yes to a question he asked me in 2014. And I said, I have no idea what you want me to do, but I will do it. And he took off. I remember sitting in that coffee shop and Googling how to start a nonprofit, because if you want God to have the glory, you put someone totally ill-equipped in charge, like a cheer and dance coach, perhaps. I remember buying the domain name, Isaiah117house.com. In 2017, I had no idea what a domain name was, and I still don't understand who GoDaddy is, but I gave them my credit card, and I got this name. It was crazy. We printed off how to start a nonprofit, and we went by it like step by step. Step 1, it was like form a board. And so we started praying and asking, and we had our first board meeting on February 26th of 2017. And that's when the dream really took shape. What if there was a home? What if there was a home? What if when a child is going through the hardest day of their life, they don't go to a cubicle or a conference room, they go to a home with big, comfy furniture, nothing sterile, and beautiful colors on the wall. And if you need a bath, we got a fully stocked bathroom, but not just any bathroom. We got Elmo bubble bath and Mickey Mouse bath toys, and we got a big white fluffy towel we're gonna heat up in the dryer and wrap you in a bath. You're a teenager, you want a shower? Go take a shower. Take a 45-minute shower. We got shampoo and conditioner. And the boys, they love the Axe body spray. We have the Axe body spray. Like, we've got new underwear, new bra, dignity. Because you've done nothing wrong. This is happening to you, not because of you. And you are loved. You want us to make you a meal? You want to order a pizza? You tell us what you want on a day that you feel like no one sees you, no one hears you. What do you need? What if within that home we could have an office space? We'll have an office space. The caseworker and the child can come to the home. We'll have everything you need, caseworker. You give us your wish list. We're going to fill that office with everything you need. And by the way, what's your favorite coffee? What's your favorite creamer? And when we order dinner, we're ordering some for you because you are not alone, caseworker. And you do the paperwork, and we'll love on the child, and together we'll do it really well. What if there was a home? What if that call that might still come at 2 a.m. now gets to sound like this? We have a sibling group of 3. They've all been at the Isaiah117 house. They played outside. They had a snack and dinner. They had a bath. Now they're in their pajamas with their teeth brushed, and they have bags full of stuff, everything they need for the next 2 to 3 days. And by the way, foster family, what do you need? You need a twin bed. You need a booster seat, diapers, formula, wipes. Don't go to Target. Just say yes. And we're going to show up because you are not alone. And thank you for saying yes. What if there was a home? And so I went out into Carter County, Tennessee. Anybody in here ever been to Carter County besides the Bunsos? Oh, one. 2? Oh, yes. Let me explain Carter County to you. Carter County and Jacksonville could not be more different. There's no industry. Everyone gets up on Monday morning and drives to Johnson City to work, and everybody drives home 5 o'clock Monday afternoon. We have a Dollar General on every store, on every corner, because apparently we're supposed to. Our Walmart got upgraded to a super center, and we have a state championship football team. That's it. That's it. There's nothing going on in Carter County. But some friends of mine had agreed to sell me their home. They were going to put it on the market for $140,000, and they agreed to sell it for $75,000. And I'm telling you, to go into Carter County and ask for $75,000, you might as well be asking for $3 million. But here I go. And so I go out to Carter County. I'm like, I need to raise $75,000. And they're like, in Carter County? Uh-huh. When do you need the money? Yesterday. Bless her heart. Bless her heart. And then a friend of mine called and said, Rhonda, if you're going to do this, you have to have a social media presence. As of 2017, I had never been on the Facebook. I didn't understand why people got on the Facebook. Like, when I would get on the Facebook, everybody was at the beach and I was at work. And everybody's children were so pretty. Don't tell mine I said that. And every time I got on the Facebook, it just taught me I wasn't living my best life. And so I didn't get on the Facebook. But this friend calls and she says, if you're going to do this, you have to have a social media presence. I've set up a Facebook page. Figure it out. Well, I didn't. She calls back the next day. Did you figure out Facebook? No, I don't want Facebook. Rhonda, if you're going to do this, you have to be on Facebook. She calls back the next day. You didn't figure out Facebook? No, I don't want it. Rhonda, 25,000 people have watched the video I posted of you and your husband, and the local news wants to interview you. You should figure out the Facebook. And I was like, on it. And so all of a sudden, every local news, radio, newspaper, they all wanted to ask me about what if there was a home. And all of a sudden, everybody's liking and sharing. And I could not go anywhere in our small town, usually the Walmart, and usually some big burly man would stop me and say, my wife made me watch that video of you and your husband. I was crying in my coffee. We got to get them kids a house. And I'm like, yes. It was unbelievable. And then in July, a friend of mine made 12 little shirts on her kitchen counter with a cricket. Love, you're not alone. That's our slogan with our logo on the back. 10 board members, me and Corey, 12 shirts. And I'm supposed to post something every night at 9. So one night in July, I said, Corey, can I post a picture of you wearing this shirt? He was like, yeah. I was like, do you think people will think we're selling them? No. We had 100 orders in 30 minutes. To date, we've sold $250,000 worth of T-shirts we weren't selling because we're not doing it. And so then I was always at the grocery store, and somebody'd come up and say, here, let me hold you buggy. Go up to your van, get me a large and extra large, run along now. And I'd leave my groceries, and I'd go to the van. All of a sudden, everybody's liking and sharing. Everybody's wearing our shirts. And then children started holding lemonade stands because they heard there were children that needed a home. $7,000 was raised in Carter County that summer because children wanted to help children. It was unbelievable. And so everybody's liking and sharing, wearing the t-shirts, drinking the lemonade. The car show gave us money. The nursing home held a bake sale for the children. The football team did a fundraiser. The entire community rallied around this dream of what if there was a home. And by August of 2017, we had $75,000 cash in Carter County. It was a miracle. It was unbelievable. In September, we paid $75,595 for the first ever Isaiah117 house. And people who know me well say I don't pay attention to details and I don't always hear all the words that are being said. That kind of happened with this home because in my mind, we were going to call in youth groups and we were going to put lipstick on this pig. Like, hey, you want to bring your youth group? We don't have any paint or supplies, but if you'd like to bring some paint and supplies, come paint this room. You want to bring your elders group? That was my plan. Well, come to find out there was a foundational issue that supposedly was told to me. And then the state came in and they wanted to remove every load-bearing wall on the first floor of a home built in 1940 with a foundational issue. And then this little sweet man from the codes department said this would no longer be a youth group project. And I was like, okay. So I called a friend of mine who was a contractor. His name was Travis. I called Travis over and I said, Travis, do you think we could take down every load-bearing wall on the first floor and fix the foundational issue for free? He was, what? Oh, my word. Rhonda, let me see what I can do. Well, I didn't know this, but God did. Travis had just been hired by the largest developer in Johnson City, Tennessee. And so 4 days later, we were called into Mitch Cox Companies, and we were told if we would demo that house to the studs in the next 5 days, they would rebuild it for free. All new electric, all new plumbing, all new floors, roof, windows. We just had to demo it in the next 5 days to fit in their construction plan. So I went to my new friend, the Facebook, and I put out an SOS, and 23 firefighters showed up and demoed that house to the studs in 2 days. Mitch Cox Companies did $90,000 worth of work to that home and never charged us a dime. Keller Williams did our entire backyard, $13,000 for their Red Day project. They even hand-painted Dr. Seuss signs, and one of them's Horton, and it says, "A person's a person, no matter how small." They did a pavilion and picnic tables, a privacy fence. Cannon's Fine Home Furnishings, Mr. and Miss Cannon own it, downtown Elizabethton, Tennessee. They did all of the furniture, $16,000 for free, except for the little boys' room. And those same firefighters came back and said, can we do the little boys' room as our Christmas project? And so on the day of the reveal of the cutest firefighter room you've ever seen, they handed me a plaque with their emblem in the middle and a verse from Isaiah. And it said, they will walk through the fire, but they will not be burned. And I started crying because that is the prayer of this home. These children are walking through the fire. But what if it could feel different? And so I start crying. All these big burly men start crying. We're all standing there crying together. And finally one of them goes, well, you know, Mike, he just ordered that off Pinterest. And I was like, the fact that firefighter Mike was on Pinterest, God was in every part of this project. So in less than a year, we had a debt-free home, beautifully remodeled for free. Every closet was full. Every cabinet was full. And we were ready to serve the children of Carter County. And I thought we were done. But isn't it just like God to make a model that's crazy effective? And so then Washington County called, and then Greene County, and then Sullivan, and then the governor showed up and said, this is the new standard for children entering foster care across the state of Tennessee, and we want 95 of these in the state of Tennessee. And then a lady from Indiana called, and then a gentleman by the name of Mike Rowe showed up. We were given fake emails, fake websites, fake names. We were told a small documentary company was coming from New York, and on the day they were supposed to show up, Mike Rowe walked in the door. If you don't know who Mike Rowe is, don't feel bad. I didn't either. He was on a show called Dirty Jobs. I thought he was on a show called Tim the Toolman Taylor, which is not even the name of that show. I really did. He spent 2 days with us, and our episode was supposed to air on March 16th of 2020. And on March 8th, we got a call that we had been moved to March 9th, that it would be airing the next night. And so our episode of Returning the Favor aired on March 9th of 2020. And between the 9th and the 10th, 2 million people watched. And on March 16th, when we were supposed to air, the world shut down. And when the rest of the world was asking, God, where are you? I had the pleasure of watching him show up. 35 states and 2 countries have reached out wanting an Isaiah 117 house. And when I was on the phone with a lady from California who told me that there were 8,000 children in custody in her county, and there are 8,000 children in custody in the state of Tennessee, I remember falling to my knees and saying, God, it's too big. It's too big. You've got the wrong girl. And then almost like a reel, clips just started going through my mind. And he was just saying over and over again, you don't have to know how to do this, because I'm bigger. I'm bigger. I'm bigger. And he's given me this vision that I keep holding on to. I'm standing there holding this tiny, tiny rock. And he keeps saying, drop the rock, Rhonda. Drop the rock. Drop the rock, Rhonda. And I drop the rock, and it hits this body of water, and these ripples just start going. And he said, you drop the rock. I'll take care of the ripples. Today is the day that we drop the rock in Jacksonville. And we don't know what he's going to do here, but we know he's going to do it. And I'm so excited that you are here on day 1 to watch the journey of how this home is built for the children of your community. And so 2 of those 2 million people that saw Returning the Favor are with us here tonight. Carl and Danae, if you will come back up here with us. Carl and Danae reached out. I just found out. They really are the tallest people I've ever, just look at this. I don't consider myself abnormally little. It's Carl and Danae, I just found out today, Carl just disclosed today that, so they reached out and we said, well, you'll need to send a video. And Carl looks at Danae and said, we're not sending them a video. Who are these crazy people? We're not sending a video. I was like, well, that's funny, Carl, because we were in Tennessee going, who are these crazy people? We need to see a video. So Carl and Danae came to visit, and oh my word, we were blown away. I mean, no part of our executive board thought Florida should be next, except for Carl and Danae. The heart they have for this, and that's what I keep seeing, is God keeps bringing the most amazing people to live out this vision that he has for his children. It's not mine, it's his. And so Carl and Danae are the face of Duval County, Isaiah 117 house. Another reason we need to see a video. Just kidding. And we're going to start meeting once a month. Once a month, we're going to be at the 3rd Sunday of every month from 1 to 2 right here. That'll be on our Facebook page. We're going to meet once a month for the next 6 to 8 months. And we're going to tell God every time, we're showing up for you, God, and for what you want to do in this county. And every time we meet, we will not meet for longer than an hour. If we say the meeting's 1 to 2, it's over at 2. So we have 6 minutes for Q&A. We're going to quit this at 6 o'clock on the dot. But here's the thing. I'm not going anywhere because I live 9 hours from here. So I'll be around. You all are going to be around. There's tons of core team members. They all have on name tags. They'll be out in the lobby. Any of us are happy to answer any of your questions. But we did just want to open it up for a few minutes for any questions that you have about Isaiah 117 house, our plan, what we're doing next. So yeah, any questions that you have. Yes, ma'am. Yes, so every one of our homes, we only open if we're debt-free with a fully funded first year's budget, and we only have one employee. And that's intentional so that there's not a ton of overhead and so that the money is going to the children. So we rely on volunteers. All of our volunteers are fingerprinted, background checked, trauma-informed care trained, and then they sign up to be on call. So the department would call the program coordinator and say, we have a sibling group of 3, here are their names, here are their ages, we'll be at the house in 30 minutes. The program coordinator would go to the on-call list, see who are the volunteers on call today, send out a text, and we would get volunteers to the house. I'm here to tell you, I felt like such an Israelite in Elizabeth in that first year because I watched God show up. But then it came to volunteers, and I was like, oh, even God can't do volunteers. I mean, y'all, it was the scariest part for me. But what I have learned is God's people are thirsty. They are dying to step into this. They are dying to help. And so if you give them an opportunity, they show up. And we've never had a child in any of our homes and their volunteer not be there. And so we use a volunteer on-call system. Yes, sir. Yes, so the first home came about so fast, we literally had to work it backward and say, what just happened? Like, what was God even doing? And what we learned was we spent about 6 months telling anybody that would listen about a day they didn't know about. It was all about awareness. And so, ironically, we're not doing any fundraising right now. We're doing awareness raising. So if you're in this room right now and you're part of a church, we want to get in front of that church because that's where God's people are on Sunday morning, and we would love that opportunity. If you're part of a civic group, I've spoken to Moose Lodge 939, the Garden Club East, and the Garden Club West because they got mad at some point about a begonia or something. I mean, anybody that will listen, we want to tell them about this day because what we have learned is once people know, they want to help. And so for the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to do awareness raising. Now, part of that awareness raising is we do sell t-shirts, but it's for the awareness. Because when somebody says, love, you're not alone, Isaiah117house, what's that? Boom, you're ready. Like you're ready to tell them all about it. We also sell lemonade. Once again, it's not about the money. It's a way to get children involved and get awareness. So we'll have a lemonade stand challenge on July 17th, and we will try to hold as many lemonade stands as humanly possible all across this county. And so what happens is somebody drives by the first one and they're like, well, that's cute. And then they drive by the second one like, that said Isaiah117. They drive by the third, they say, stop the car. What are y'all doing? And then you get to tell them, did you know? And it's a way for children to get involved because this ministry resonates with children. So for the next 6 months, we're going to talk to anybody that will listen. We're going to put a t-shirt on anybody that will take one. We're going to sell lemonade. And during that process, we're going to have a couple of events here and there, but really that's it. And at the end of that 6 months, we're going to have a big fundraiser luncheon. And we're going to try to get 400 plus people in a venue. And that's the day that we're going to say, this is the day we're actually asking for funds. This is the day that we want to make this dream a reality. And we want to fill that room full of people that know about us, have heard about us somewhere, want to be part of it. And then what we've also seen in that 6 to 8 months of awareness is somebody steps up and says, you know what? We've got a piece of land. We'd love to offer it to you. Or a church steps up and says, we have 90 acres. Would you like one? Or somebody steps up and says, we've had my mom's home for the last 10 years, and she would love this. We'd love to give you this home to renovate. We just wait to see what God's going to provide. And so 6 to 8 months of awareness, telling anyone that will listen, and we wait to see how God's going to move the people of this county to make this happen. Fundraising luncheon. Then we form a local board, a local advisory board, hire a program coordinator, and by then we're usually renovating a home or building a home. So that's kind of the 10,000-foot view. We have 1 minute for questions. Any other questions? Okay, like I said, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here. There's cookies. That makes things fun. So get a cookie, buy a t-shirt, ask a question. Thank you so much for coming. And then you're going to come back in April April 18th, right here from 1 to 2, if you want to be part of this. And at that next meeting, that is when we will form subcommittees and we'll start really doing the work of making this dream a reality. Thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you.